Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming to our session today. So I'm Maggie Banda. I'm the nationwide Senior Purchase to Payments Manager, and we're going to share our story with you today.
And I'm Rob Swales, the Operations Purchasing Manager.
So like Mo said, we have been on this journey for 2 years now, source to pay the nationwide way, and we're going to share that with you today. But before I do that, I want to take you through to tell you a bit more about Nationwide. So we are the world's largest mutual, meaning we don't have any shareholders. We don't pay a dividend, so when we've got a profit, that goes back into our products and back to our members. We've got 1 in 4 UK households have a mortgage with Nationwide, and we have last year had 1.4 billion customer interactions, which I believe is very impressive. So we have 15,000 employees, of which Rob and I are in there, and we've got a little merry crew at the front there as well, that are from Nationwide as well, and we have 760 branches. But principally, our main offering is the savings and mortgage market. But what I'm really proud of is our reputation and brand. Nationwide have a really strong reputation in the marketplace, and we are ranked the 22nd place as the top UK organisation for reputation, which is really strong. I'm really proud of that. But what are we here for today, which is what you really want to know? So Rob and I, last year, Barry was here, Barry's down the front as well, Barry was here, and he gave you the story with regards to our business case and what Nationwide were going to do to fully transform our P2P function. This year, a year on, we've had our year anniversary on the 13th of September. It fell on a Friday this year, which is a bit daunting, but it was still a year on our anniversary. And what we're going to do today is share with you what we set out to achieve, what was the Nationwide way, feedback on lessons learned, warts and all. We are going to share with you where we would do things differently, and then final thoughts, achievements, what we're proud of, as well as what we would do differently. So I'm going to hand you over to Rob now, and he'll take you through the background.
So just to give you a bit of background before we get into the actual presentation itself, we had a very strong business case because our procurement function at the time, the way we worked was, well, quite backwards in many respects. We had very disparate systems, we had very manual ways of doing things, manual ways of working. So I'm sure it's probably a classic tale for many of you in the procurement world. It was very much a classic business case. So we wanted to look across the piece at our MI, sourcing, spend management, and our procure-to-pay systems. So one of the key things that we looked at doing as part of the business case was really around our MI. We found our MI was very weak at the time. We relied a lot on people putting in manual requisitions into our tool, and therefore they were able to type in whatever they wanted, they could categorize it to whatever they wanted, and they could also put it to whatever finance general ledger code they wanted, which means the data that we were getting out of the system wasn't as accurate as it could be. So it required a lot of manual reworking. Our sourcing and contracts, although relatively mature, we had 2 separate systems. So our sourcing specialists were constantly flicking between the 2 systems, trying to remember where to get information from each. And again, that was a very painful experience. There was no shared data. There was no interfacing between the 2 systems. One of the big ones, especially being now in the finance division, was really our control over spend. We didn't have much control over our spend. We didn't have the ability to put in smart rules through product categorization to create special workflow for individual product categories. And one of the most alarming ones really for me when I joined Nationwide was just how manual it was in the procure-to-pay department. We had a team of, some 15 odd people, and basically the process was that we get a spreadsheet in from one of the branches. We would then key that into our procurement system. The guys would then print off the purchase order, we would then stuff it into an envelope, and then post it to the supplier. And that was 18 months ago. So as you can see, Nationwide was very, very much behind the time. So as you can see, the business case was pretty easy to write in many respects. What we're looking to achieve then? So what we wanted to achieve was to deliver an effective platform for Nationwide to achieve year-on-year savings. And really the big one that kind of rose out of here was really around control of spend and automation of spend. So these are the 4 elements that we look to target. By improving our MI, by combining our contracts and our sourcing tools into one single tool, getting more control over our spend, being able to have flexibility to put in rules for different product categories, and for me, automating the whole procure-to-pay process, getting rid of the low-value, high-volume stuff that really clogs up a business. So for me, as I say, the business case was very, very straightforward. So that's just some of the background.
So we partnered up with Hubwoo, as Mo said at the beginning, and we came up with our proposal for how we're going to transform Nationwide's procurement process. There was 3 key themes to how we were going to do that. The first one being, we wanted to make sure that the tool stayed vanilla as possible. We didn't want to change the tool to match our processes. We needed to make sure that our processes changed to match the tool. Second was, we wanted to make sure that the SME population of our procurement team were the people that knew the tool inside out. We had KPMG at the beginning to help us with the business case, but actually delivering the tool and knowing the tool inside out was down to the individuals in our procurement team and the operations team. And we wanted to do that. Finally, we needed to make sure that P2P became the centre of Nationwide's business. We needed to make sure that procurement was who the business would engage with. And we need to do that by making sure that we had a sourcing strategy that was end-to-end. So we wanted something that was from an idea right the way through to the purchase order and spend. We also needed to make sure that we had one single platform for our users to use. We've got 15,000 employees, 760 branches. We needed to make sure they had one single way of coming in. And finally, we just wanted to make sure that we could capture all our spend. We needed to make sure that we could go from right down to commodity level to see that spend that would help our sourcing specialists. And all of that was tapped back into our finance system, which is PeopleSoft system. So we're going from a SAP system into PeopleSoft, and there was a lot of integration with that. But another key thing was we could do all this to make this part of Nationwide's culture and the way they engage with us. We needed to make sure that we had an engagement model. And there was 3 strands to that. There was the internal procurement, the users, and then also the stakeholders and suppliers. So I'm going to take you through that bit now. So this was for our procurement department. Now, procurement can be a bit dry, so we wanted to make sure that we brought it alive a bit more, and that's what my team did. So the project team, we looked at this and we thought, okay, we're partnering with Hubwoo. Let's make Hubwoo that little character over in the corner, the little computer image there of a robot. And depending on what module we were talking about within the session, he would have it in the middle of his belly so that the users knew. We then sort of had a bit of fun and thought, well, let's make some characters. So one of our sourcing specialists does kind of look a bit like our character, Buzz Brightyear. And we also had Darth Vader as the boss. But joking aside, what we did in a whole launch event, we brought this alive for our procurement team. We did a whole day in the life of a sourcing specialist. So it took them from Darth Vader, coming up with an idea of what he wanted to source, right the way through to looking at each of the modules, right the way through to actually capturing the spend at the end. We also did an e-auction live within the team. So they actually were using the tool as part of our launch event and demoing it. And it really brought it alive for them. So we procured a chocolate rocket, which was good fun. But we didn't want to finish there. We need to keep the buzz and keep it alive for the team once we finish the launch event. Because if we got it right for the procurement team, when they're engaging with the business and their stakeholders, it also made it more engaging for them. So we created great big A0 posters. So as they finished the session that day, they were up on the department when they came back upstairs. And we've still got them up there today, a year on. It does remind us of the journey that we've been on. The next stage was our users. Last year, we shared with you how we were doing our business case, and we used champions in the business to promote our new tools. We were going big bang. So we needed to make sure that we had something that was user-friendly and easy for the users to go into. So we created a landing page. And here, we had to signpost straight away, where do I buy? So we showed them where they would buy. We already had our IT consumables and our stationery. We had systems that were used by people already. But we wanted to make them feel that they were still going through the iBuy solution. So we plugged those into the landing screen as well, so it looked like it was all within the same module. Product categories was key. This is where, which Rob said earlier, we were locking down the GL. Creative accounting was no longer available to our employees. So if you were ordering stationery, it went against your stationery nominal codes. You weren't able to suddenly like, oh, I've got a bit of money left in travel, I can put it against that cost centre. That was gone. But we needed to explain that to our users, so when they were choosing which supplier they were going to use for their goods and services, what product category it was going against in the background for them. But with the users, you need to make sure they've got the right user guides and useful links. we spent an awful lot of time creating what we call Captivate distance learning material. And that is where we had a video screen showing you the next step. So as a user, you could click on, say, how do I raise a cart? It would show you what to click, and you could pause it and everything. And my team spent a considerable amount of time doing that. We then used those as screenshots to create the user manuals, so that it was really, really useful for them. And then, of course, you need your frequently asked questions, and you've got who to contact when you go live. So we truly believed at this stage we'd done everything we needed for our users across the business. So then we go to the stakeholders. And this is where it was a little bit different. And again, this picture was shared last year. But we find it really helps with the way that we were encouraging our stakeholders to engage with the procurement team. And I guess the way I would describe this would be it's unplanned or planned activity. So if you were looking at an unplanned piece of sourcing, you would go to your tactical suppliers in the nationwide world, whereas if it was planned and it was high volume or high spend, you would go over to your planned, and then you would go through approved, preferred, and strategic. And we would expect you to use iBuy purchase order, capturing the spend, and contract through for those suppliers. But over here, we would expect it to be on personal expenses. So to give you an example, and this is how we brought it alive to our senior team. So it's the weekend, you've run out of bread. You go to your local corner shop to get your loaf of bread. But then you realise, actually, I need a newspaper, a bunch of flowers for the wife. It's always the wife. And always you need to have perhaps a gift or something. So you would go to your more experienced suppliers that would have that kind of goods and services for you. So you would go to the high street, the retail park, or the superstore. So you would tailor that. Now that's where it clicked for our senior management team. So if you were looking to go for planned expenditure, you knew what you wanted, you knew what services you want, you would go to the suppliers that we've already got a relationship with, and you'd go to your corner shop for your tactical or one-offs. And that's how we brought it alive. And then putting around it was where the modules that Hubwoo have helped develop for us. You'd have the iSource for how you would interact to do your RFX and everything through to contract. You've got iBuy for your purchase orders. This was one that we went to a different company for iManage, which is our SRM piece, so that you could manage the relationship with your suppliers. But over it all, you've got the iAnalyze tool, which then captured the spend, like I said, right the way down to commodity level, so that we could give that back to our sourcing guys to use when they're managing their contracts and renegotiations. And that was really useful for that engagement model. Okay,
so now I look back kind of a year on. So I think we're all a little bit older, a little bit wiser, a little bit grayer in many respects. It's been definitely been a tough year implementing all of these modules in one go, and that was a key learning for us. So, as I said, in terms of our key deliverables, we delivered our main ones were the iSource, the iBuy, and the iAnalyze tools, and we delivered those in partnership with Hubwoo. So, some of the key things that we delivered, certainly around the iSource team, certainly around the iSource tool, was we delivered the opportunity for sourcing specialists to be able to go into the tool to raise a project and see that all the way through to an RFX, to an auction, all the way through to a contract. So we had a full audit trail within the system. What it also allowed us to do was also sourcing specialists could key in their resource, their time on projects, so that the sourcing managers could then pull off those reports to then see how utilised their team were, how over-resourced or under-resourced they may have been. Another one of the key deliverables is really around having a central contract system. So it's all on the system, all of the header fields are scanned and captured, and it allows us to be able to pull off MI from this tool as well to see what contracts we have in flight or what are coming up for renewal. And also, what we also created was actually having a specialist e-sourcing team to support our sourcing specialists. So these guys will help support in the tender process and the auction process to provide a centre of excellence almost for sourcing. One of the big ones, certainly closest to my heart, really is around the iBuy, which is the tool that I led the implementation for. So on day one, we delivered over 50% of our spend on catalogue, which going from absolutely nothing to 50% on day one was a really good achievement for us. We had around 156 catalogues live on day one. So some impressive numbers given that nationwide, like many of your organisations, is mainly buying services. It's not commodities that we're purchasing, but we can still catalogue those type of transactions. Another one of the big ones that Maggie suggested earlier was really around the having a standardised product coding set. So we opted for the UNSPSC product category coding set, which basically then gives us a standard way of interacting with suppliers. So when they're uploading their catalogues, we have the same product set as they do, and therefore it's easy to match and feed that through into the systems. And again, a huge achievement was really around the automation of the whole P2P process. Suddenly now all of the low-value, high-volume transactions were going straight through with no procurement touchpoints. The system was actually sending emails directly to suppliers, hardly wow, but big for Nationwide certainly. And it really brought us into, well, the 20th century, coming onto the 21st century. So some big steps for Nationwide. And finally, on the iAnalyze side, giving us a tool that provides MI and strong MI. With this tool, we're able to provide category level reports within seconds, which the sourcing specialist can then take to their senior stakeholders and say, well, this is your spend, these are your suppliers, these are your product categories, and you can drill all the way down to purchase order should they need to. So it gives us the ability to really provide strong and positive MI and be proactive rather than reactive. We then took the brave step of asking our audience, our user base, for feedback, which is sometimes not a great idea. So we got a fairly mixed response. So kind of 8 months in, my team sent out a load of surveys to all of our core users. So again, mainly a positive picture. So as you can see here, some people were impressed with the system, generally easy to use. There are some quirks, which is great. 64% of our stakeholders said they found the system okay, they were satisfied with it. But what I really wanted to get out of it was really to understand what the complaints were, what the issues were in the business, to help us inform what our procurement operations team strategy was for the coming year, and what enhancements we need to work with Hubwoo on in order to develop and take the system forward. So it's that 36% really was the people I was looking to target. And really the sort of things they were telling me was really around the training and the support they hadn't received at the start of the process, which really informed their kind of negative opinion of the project and what we delivered. So it was good to get that feedback, and it was important to get that feedback from our users so we can then look at what the next steps were. So in terms of lessons learned, one of the big things we did, because as Maggie said, we're trying to implement an Oracle system, an SAP system into an Oracle system, which is a big effort in terms of getting the integration piece right, because the language between the two tools is not common. So we spent a lot of time focusing on the integration layer between the two systems. And we did that well, but we spent so much time focusing on the integration. One of the big things we didn't spend enough time on was the people element. So when Maggie and I sat down and looked at the lessons learned, we asked ourselves, well, did we select the right champions? No, we did not. We went out to the business and said, do you want to be a champion? The wrong people put their hands up and got involved as champions. These are people who just wanted to be part of the project and feel, engaged in the project. They were not people who ever used the system. They were not people who ever raised requisitions or shopping carts. So they were completely the wrong people and therefore weren't system advocates. So when we went live on day one, there were literally queues of people coming to our desks. Meeting rooms were full. My team regularly had over 200 emails each per day. It was carnage. I'm not going to lie to you. So it was a lot of hard work on day one. But that's because the champions that we selected just weren't the right people. We then looked at our training methodology. So we looked at our e-learning that Maggie mentioned earlier. Again, a lady in my team spent a lot of time looking at the Captivate e-learning modules. So, they could download them, they could watch them, they could pause them, they could play them. Unfortunately, the culture in Nationwide is not distance learning. It is not e-learning. It is very much, we want face-to-face, we want one-to-one training, we want hand-holding, certainly in our administration centres. So that was quite eye-opening again, because it's only now that we're starting to play catch-up to these people. They didn't want to go onto the system, they didn't want to spend time looking at e-learning, and they didn't want to be downloading user guides. They wanted someone like myself or my team to go out there and sit with them and show them specific stuff for them. So that was, that was a major learning, and that's been quite hard. We then looked at a big bang versus a gradual rollout approach. As Maggie said, we went big bang. We launched all the modules all at once, and we went live across the business with iBuy. Our hand was kind of forced to a certain degree because we didn't want to have two systems running in parallel. We had to shut one down on day X and launch the next one on day Y. But going big bang, as I say, we didn't have the resource model correct. Because of our cost challenges, we were forced to take the team down to our new business-as-usual operational levels. However, what we didn't expect was the wave of queries and issues that came our way. So we did not have a team ready for the implementation phase of Go Live. And as I said, that was where we had queues of people at the door. The team were working weekends and evenings just to try and clear the backlog of emails and things like that. So we were just not prepared for the carnage of Go Live. So that's something definitely that will take with me forever. The key thing is around knowing your users as well. As I said, because we didn't select the right champions, the people who were involved in using the system weren't giving us the right level of feedback. If we'd engaged the core users, the people who use the system day in, day out, are raising 30, 40, 50 shopping carts a day, these are the people that we should have been speaking to help us configure the system and get the most out of it. It's only now that we're starting to do these type of things, and now we're getting a much better response. But if we'd done that from day one, we would have gone a lot further in winning kind of the hearts and minds battle from day one. And finally, one of the not so funny things is really around getting your approval structure right. Nationwide didn't do that very well either. So again, people were raising shopping carts for pens and pencils, and because the approval trees weren't set up correctly, they was going straight to divisional directors and executive directors who didn't find it that funny approving, 50p pencils and things like that. So again, another big learning for the business, that they had to look at their approval structures to make sure they had a proper hierarchy in place for the orders to flow through. So some hard lessons, but some good lessons. However, that said, now that we're a year down the line, we're really starting to deliver some proper benefits now with the tool. The tool's embedded, the team are settled, we know what we're doing, we know how to use the tool, and we're now engaging with the business in the right way. As you can see from the stats up here, we've had a 132% increase in the volume of shopping carts, which is great because we now have a single solution for all of retail and all of admin. Everyone's using the same tool. Everyone's raising orders through the same process. We have a massive increase, and also we have a much smaller team managing it now because the system's automating and sending the purchase orders out. We also have 90% of our nationwide third-party spend on PO, which again is a fantastic achievement, and has taken us 15-20% up from where we were last year. So it's really good that we've got that coverage now on PO. We still need to focus on getting our percentage of transactions on PO up, but what that tells me is that the key spend is covered on PO. As I said earlier, around really having the average of catalogues up to 52%, again, a really big achievement for us, and that's something that we're looking to exploit more as we go down the line. Some other things, though, around our ability to forecast our spend. So now that we have more POs going through the system, finance can now see what POs we have, what commitments we have, what's been receipted from those POs, what's left on them. So we can now start to track our spend and be able to forecast our spend. So we know when the big hits are going to come to us in terms of invoicing and expenditure. Another big one now for the sourcing teams is visibility of contract spend. So this is something that we're literally on the cusp of looking to roll out next week, looking to get more of our spend now within the iBuy tool linked to operational contracts. So we can start calling off contracts. We can see how much spend is left on those, what our consumption levels are. The system will then send notifications when we approach 80, 90% or whatever thresholds we set on contracts. So again, it starts to make us a lot more proactive in that contract management piece, which is not something that we've ever done before. As I say, previously we have no links between contracts and our purchase orders. It's a lot of manual work to try and tie those together. We also now, as I said earlier, we have around accuracy of spend. So now because we have this UNSPSC category structure within the tool, it's now hard coding our product categories to our general ledger codes. So when finance are pulling off reports, they can rest assured that it's going to be very, very accurate reporting. We can also link suppliers to specific product categories, meaning that we can channel the business to our preferred strategic suppliers, as Maggie highlighted earlier. Okay. However, next steps. Still a lot more to do. So we appreciate we've come on a bit of a journey, but there's still a lot to do to really take us towards being even better and really kind of completing the process. So training the right users. So my team in procurement operations now are going out and training the business and bespoking the training. The retail guys only want to see certain elements of the catalogue. Treasury, commercial, only want to see certain types of orders. So we're now bespoking training packs, bespoking all of the way we approach people as well. So we're going to spend the next couple of months doing a lot more of that and having a lot more face-to-face engagements. We're also looking to drive towards no PO, no pay is the ultimate vision for us. So we're going to look more into our compliance reporting. Getting more spend on PO, who are kind of the key offenders, who are the people not using the tool, and letting the MI then drive our strategy. One of the big things, I've got one of the ladies in my team, she's really looking at the exploitation of the system. It's getting more on catalogue. So we're looking to target around 65% of spend onto catalogue, which, again, bear in mind, a lot of the stuff that we buy is consultancy, it's training, it's all that type of stuff, it's bespoke spend. To be able to get that percentage onto catalogue will be a big achievement for us. I'm also now looking at e-invoicing, so to complete that procure-to-pay or source-to-pay loop, e-invoicing is really the final thing for us. Getting the automation of the kind of the accounts payable element, so it's a completely joined up process. And one of the ones that Maggie will be taking over shortly is the ability to get procurement and AP into one area. So we're merging the two teams. So they will have distinct roles, but because they'll be in one location, Maggie will now have complete control over the procure to pay process, and we can look at the synergies and flexibilities within the team.
Okay, thanks. So final thoughts for you today. The nationwide way was to use our SMEs within the department, so we did that and we achieved that. But the main thing was actually keeping the tool vanilla, and I'm proud to say that we did do that, Mo, didn't we? We didn't kill you too much in the process. So we did keep it as vanilla as possible, and that's made it much easier when it comes to the enhancements and taking on the stuff through from Hubwoo. So that's worked for us. Don't want to labour this point too much, but the next few points are quite important. And the fact that training and communication is definitely essential. Know your audience, because we got that wrong with regards to face-to-face training versus the distance learning. And I would really recommend that you can do a bit of both, hybrid of both, but make sure you get it to the right audience in the right way, because that came back to bite us, and it was quite painful. We called our system iBuy, but when we went live, it was called some things quite nasty, and I think iDespair was probably the one that I can share today. So it was, we've had an interesting journey with regards to that, so I'll move on. More sufficient resource at the time of go live. Rob's already alluded to that in the fact that we had a team of 8. We went down to 4 before we went live. And then at live, we had to get temps in, which was kind of threw out the window the whole point of doing the efficiencies at that point. Now, we're a year on, we're back to where we need to be with that business model, which we put in for P2P. But at the time, we had this wave of complaints and everything coming through because people weren't understanding the tool. It wasn't that the tool wasn't good, it wasn't delivering what was on the package. It's the fact they didn't understand it, and we hadn't supported them in the go-live preparation with regards to the champions. Which feeds me on to my next piece, where make sure you get the right people. Rob's explained that really well already, making sure that the champions that you get are actually advocates of the tool, because then it takes the noise away from your procurement operations team when you go live, because they're actually being dealt with on the floor rather than coming in, picking the phone up or badgering the team that are trying to run the system as well as deal with the queries. And I guess another quite big one for us was getting the sandpit early. You need to be able to play with the tool and see the tool. We didn't get it early enough within our project. And just having those champions using the tool so that when it did go live, they're actually then in there, they know the tool already, whereas they didn't see it until it went live. We saw it beforehand, but they, as users, didn't see it until it was live. So that was quite a shock to them when we did that. So again, I'd say get that out there to your champions as well. But it's not all doom and gloom. The benefits slide was very good, and we're very proud as a team in Nationwide, and the procurement team, we're very proud of what we achieved in the last couple of years, right the way through implementation stage, to getting to go live, and then go live and surviving the go live, and now where we are a year on. We've received some internal and external recognition for what we've achieved. So we got nominated to the Nationwide Annual Awards for Team of the Year, and we also got through to the nominations for Procurement Leaders of the Year as well for the team that were delivering this tool. So we're really proud of that. And actually, when we go to organisations or events like this, talking through to other people, we do find we're the envy of some people because we have got now a P2P tool that goes right the way through from an idea, golden thread, right the way through to actually seeing your purchase order, spend, contracts, and you've got it as through to commodity and everything. So we have got that golden thread right the way through. And I guess that's our story. That's the Nationwide way. Thank you for coming to our session today. And I hope you've got some information out that you can take away and learn from our experiences. Thank you.